Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out this red-white Super Friends control deck that has a very spicy combo finish, and it features one of my favorite planeswalkers as its commander, Nahiri, the Harbinger. This 4-mana planeswalker starts out at 4 loyalty, and we're often going to be using the +2 twice to set up the -8 ultimate as soon as possible. The +2 lets us discard a card if we do draw a card. If our hand is perfect, we don't have to discard anything. The -2 is also quite versatile. We can exile any opposing enchantment, whether it's tapped or untapped, or we can exile specifically a tapped artifact or a tapped creature, so that can also take care of problematic permanents. And then the -8 is what it's really all about, letting us search our library for an artifact or creature. We get to put it in play with haste, and then end of turn we have to return it back to our hand. And of course, what better card to get than Emrakul, the Aeon's Thorn. This can enter and immediately attack for 15 in the air, and more importantly, annihilate for 6, so our opponent will have to sacrifice 6 permanents of their choice. And if we can pull that off early on in the game, that will leave our opponent without any permanents whatsoever. So that's our plan. Now I've split up the deck into a few different categories to help with the breakdown. Of course, Emrakul gets its own category. Then we've got plenty of 2-mana ramp cards. There's plenty of 2-mana ramp artifacts in the format now, so we can pretty consistently play Nahiri on turn 3 already, and the sooner we get it going, of course, the better. Then we've got plenty of spot removal to protect our planeswalkers, often 1 and 2 mana answers, and even some evoke elementals that we can play for free to come to Nahiri's rescue. Then we also have plenty of board wipes, because we're not playing a ton of creatures to the board, so then board wipes are excellent to keep the board clear to protect our planeswalkers. We also have some other walls and some creatures that generate tokens that can help block and that way protect our loyalty as well. And then plenty of other planeswalkers that we're planning to play after we deploy Nahiri, so usually 5 and 6 mana planeswalkers that can also act as an alternate win condition in case Nahiri gets answered over and over. And then a small miscellaneous section with a few more card draw effects, or some cards that play very well with planeswalkers, such as Urza Assembles the Titans, which is another one of my favorite cards in this deck. So that's our deck in a nutshell. And now for the deep dive, of course, we don't need to read you Emrakul. We've got plenty of ramp artifacts, starting with Chrome Mox, which can maybe play one of these 2-mana artifacts on turn 1 already, so we can cast a turn 2 Nahiri, which would be great. And then a Boros Signet and the Red-White Talisman are recent additions. We all know Arcane Signet by now. There's Cold Steelheart, Guardian Idol, Mindstone, Solar Transformer, and the Iron Crag. And then I'm still playing Worn Power Stone, since that can maybe accelerate out some of our 6 and 7 mana cards. Then we've got plenty of spot removal, with Chain to the Rocks being a unique feature of being a Boros deck, as we have to enchant a mountain before we can cast it, but then it can exile any opposing creature. Oust, also a recent addition, sorcery speed, Swords to Plowshares type effect, which is still good. Then I'm playing both Portable Hole and Seam Rip as versatile answers that can answer cheap permanents, including artifacts and enchantments. Then of course Swords to Plowshares and Lightning Bolt, some of the best 1-mana answers in the format. Then at 2 mana we've got a few answers that can deal with both creatures and planeswalkers alike. Fateful Absence, Get Lost also hits enchantments, and there's Ossification. Since our deck is not great at pressuring opposing planeswalkers, since we don't have many creatures to begin with, so it's good to have a few of these removal spells. Lightning Helix can deal 3 and gain 3, Rip Apart can deal with creatures, artifacts, or enchantments. There's Loran to blow up an artifact or enchantment, and then a 2-1 that can maybe soak up an attack to protect our loyalty. And then Flash is also excellent in a deck with a lot of spells that end up in the graveyard, as we'll be able to both cast and escape it later. The White Aura Sight is both a ramp and removal all in one. And then we've got our 2 evoke elementals that can maybe be played for free if we pitch a card of the corresponding color, Solitude, another Swords to Plowshares effect, and Fury can deal 4 divided as we choose. Then we've got more sweepers, with Pyroclasm dealing 2 to everything, Anger dealing 3, and exiling creatures in the process. Then we've got Split Up to maybe deal with all tapped or untapped creatures. And then at 4 mana, some more unconditional sweepers, Day of Judgment, Depopulate, Wrath of God. Expel the Interlopers also has good synergy with our walls that we can maybe keep in play while dealing with all other creatures. And then Sunfall can leave us with a large Incubator token. Then we've got a Currency Converter, which is excellent with Nahiri, as we'll keep discarding cards, filling the graveyard, which can then turn into either treasure tokens or 2/2 rogue tokens, which can also come to the rescue. Then Ajani can occasionally transform into the Avenger, adding to the Super Friends theme, but it's also just 2 blockers to protect our other planeswalkers, and our opponents are probably going to overvalue Ajani and use their good removal on it. Then we've got Builder's Talents, Birth, and Wall of Omens, all providing 0/4s, while maybe drawing a card or getting an extra land. Seasoned Pyromancer can maybe improve our hand while generating some elemental tokens, and Beza is also good if we're behind on board, as it will often make some fish tokens as additional blockers, can maybe draw a card if we're behind on cards in hand, or make a treasure if we're behind on lands. And then our planeswalkers include Gideon of the Trials, which is also good alongside our sweepers, since we can force the opponent to overextend by first plussing on their only creature, and then hit them with a board wipe. Then there's the Wandering Emperor, which we can also play at instant speed to exile tapped creatures. Chandra can deal 4 to a creature or start ramping into more expensive planeswalkers as well. We've got Elspeth Stormslayer, great at making lots of blockers to protect our other planeswalkers. Got Quintorius, which can also maybe discover into a sweeper. Elspeth, Sun's Champion, can make lots of 1/1s or destroy larger creatures. Eternal Wanderer, another pseudo board wipe, leaving the opponent with only 1 creature. Chandra, Awakened Inferno, can deal 3 to all non-elementals or deal with 1 larger creature. And then Ugin, the Ineffable, can destroy stuff that's at least 1 or more colors, while discounting our colorless spells, including all those artifacts. And Ugin, Eye of the Storms, has a decent amount of colorless spells to go with it, so that can also exile multiple things from the opponent. And then our miscellaneous section has Authority of the Consuls, which is quite synergistic with Nahiri. Making opposing creatures enter tapped means now Nahiri can use the -2 to exile them, and it's also very good against any haste creatures that could otherwise immediately attack our planeswalkers. Could also play Blind Obedience as another 2-mana version, but of course Authority is going to be our first choice. Then Curse of Silence can tax the opponent's commander by 2. Blood Moon can also be very effective in certain matchups where the opponent has a greedy mana base, and again, if it's not useful, we can always discard it with Nahiri, so the opportunity cost is pretty low. Fable can also maybe improve our hand, generate some treasures with a Shaman token. The One Ring can draw us extra cards in the grindier matchups. Elspeth Conquers Death can deal with a larger permanent and eventually get back a planeswalker from our graveyard. And then Urza Assembles the Titans is very fun, often starting on Chapter 2 in this deck, since the hit rate on Chapter 1 isn't amazing. And then we get to maybe put a planeswalker in play from our hand, and on Chapter 3 we get to activate planeswalkers twice, so that also makes it much easier to set up an ultimate with Nahiri by adding 4 loyalty in 1 turn, or maybe setting up the +2 into the -8 right away. And then our mana base has a few utility lands, with a White Castle making 1/1 tokens, Saiganjo can be channeled to deal 4 damage, or Sokendan can be channeled to make a pair of 1/1s even at instant speed. There's the Monumental Henge, which can maybe find additional artifacts or planeswalkers in this deck. And then we've got plenty of mana fixing, plenty of fetch lands to get either our Sacred Foundry or basics, or maybe Elegant Parlor if we want to improve our draw steps with a Surveil. And then also can't forget about Ancient Tomb, which can make 2 mana at the cost of 2 life, especially good alongside our many 2 mana ramp artifacts, which we can now already play on turn 1 to set up a turn 2 Nahiri. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, facing Leovold. The good news is we have a lot of sweepers in the deck that don't target any of the opponent's stuff, so they don't get to draw. This hand is not really one of those where we have any board wipes. So this one's close. I think I still mulligan since I don't have a 3rd land. I guess we can find one with Birth. But then I still don't have any ramp for Nahiri. No board wipes, which is what we would like. It's a close call. This seems a little bit better. Still no board wipes, but can keep up Bolt or just fetch a Surveil land. And Builder's Talents lines up well against Leovold to protect Nahiri. Alright, Halfling I can Bolt. So then a Mountain versus Sacred Foundry. I guess we're fine with a Mountain. We'll also need a Mountain for Chain to the Rocks. And now Talisman is even better. So next turn I can already play Nahiri. Howling Mine, for now, still draws me a card. And Nahiri's just gonna plus here. What to get rid of? Might be the Builder's Talent, since I have removal aplenty. To try and keep the board clear. And then I'm fine if they maybe draw an extra card with Leovolds, if they run it out here. So now I don't get to draw an extra card yet. But we will probably Chain to the Rocks and keep Rip Apart as a more flexible answer. Could also just cast Fury, to be honest, that's probably better. They get to draw a card. But now I can once again loot with Nahiri. Hope they don't have any Planeswalker removal. Ditching Chromox. Alright, do we get to Ultimate Nahiri? Otherwise I can just replay her for 6 mana. And Rip Apart can also hit the Howling Mine, but for now I don't see a reason to. Alright, the One Ring is fine. Their opponent has protection. But what they do not have is protection from Annihilator. So I can still annihilate their board. So let's do that. And get Emrakul. Attack. Everything's gone. And I'll just replay Nahiri. Don't think I'll need the curse anytime soon. The only drawback of Emrakul now is that it shuffles away my graveyard, so I won't be able to necessarily escape Flage. So I might want to set that up first. Opponent's fighting the good fight. So Flage is 5 other cards, so yeah, I can play and escape. That seems good. And then afterwards I'll discard Emrakul. Well, this was pretty much the perfect game for us. Next turn I can Ultimate Nahiri again. And this time Emrakul will certainly be lethal. Opponent maybe going for a Treasure Cruise. Fair enough. Yeah, they're just dead in a lot of different ways. But you know what, let's give them another Emrakul while we're here. Alright, there we go. Perfect victory. Opponent without any permanents in play. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Mono Black Sacrifice with Yawgmoth. So, can expect lots of smaller creatures. This hand is not ideal. Don't have a clean answer to Yawgmoth. No ramp either. Okay, this one's fine, I think, since we have Ancient Tomb into Talisman. And then hopefully draw more lands afterwards. Definitely has potential. And we drew a Plains. Still gonna go for turn 1 Talisman. Nothing to Seam Rip. And then turn 2 Nahiri, potentially incoming. Now Mono Black is potentially going to have some answers to Planeswalkers as well. For now, a Blood Witch. Fine target for a Seam Rip. Or I can play Nahiri. I think I take a detour here and just play the wall and Seam Rip. And then wait a little bit longer on Nahiri. Okay, so I don't have to worry about any lands entering tapped. And then next turn I can play Nahiri with better protection in place. Alright, opponent's gonna take out my wall. It comes back, they get to draw a card. That's fine. Time for Nahiri. I will loot. Can get rid of Fabled Passage. Our opponent's got their own Ancient Tomb, it's only fair. Ooh, and an Eldest Reborn. That's why they wanted to get rid of my wall so badly. Alright, back to the command zone. So, next turn I have to discard a card, turn after they get to reanimate stuff. So, could Urza Assembles. And then, let's see, if next turn I plan to play Nahiri, I could then activate twice. So I could skip Chapter 1, just put in Gideon with Chapter 2, and then next turn Nahiri activate twice. Yeah, that seems reasonable. I guess I'll make the emblem first. Discard Cold Steel Heart. And then I'll have Gideon protecting Nahiri. And Nahiri threatening ultimate on the following turn already. Also have the option of playing Nahiri to just exile the Eldest Reborn outright. Next is Bloodghast. And feed this form Seam Rip. Okay. Still gonna go for Nahiri, and then Gideon can plus on both Bloodghast and the Blood Witch.
It's just you and me. You'll have to get through me first.
Plus discard Signet. And plus maybe discard Get Lost over Wrath. And the land, so I can maybe replay Nahiri if it does get removed. Opponent reanimates my wall to draw. Can they stop a Nahiri ultimate? Terminus is fine. And Yawgmoth. So I can cast my Wrath before I get Emrakul. Then our opponent will just sack a bunch of creatures, draw a bunch of cards. Did they not play a land yet, maybe? Yeah, I guess if they can make a hasty Bloodghast here by sacking enough stuff, they could still attack Nahiri. So that would be a decent play. Because it no longer has the damage prevention from Gideon. But doesn't seem like they'll go for it. Yeah, Wrathing first is probably still the play. And I can still channel Crucible if needed. With a Gideon emblem we can't lose the game for having 0 or less life, so that's useful. And now without creatures to sacrifice to Annihilator, they'll have to sacrifice their mana sources. So then it's mostly Bloodghast we're still worried about. I get Emrakul, and Gideon turns into a creature. And smash.
Don't think so.
I guess with Crucible I could have presented lethal actually. And our opponent's just gonna scoop it up anyways. Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Yenna, green-white enchantments. My hand is removal dense, which is not a bad thing. We have a bit of defense with the walls, no ramp, and I still need to draw a 4th land after getting a Plains with Birth. So it's okay. Sure, we'll try it. It is possible that they have some enchantment that can exile Nahiri, and then I don't have an immediate answer. And the sweepers are a little bit at odds with the walls. Alright, opponent's tutoring up a creature. Maybe a Weaver of Harmony. Nope, goes for the Green Overlord. So let's get my land for next turn. Farseek to get a land. Okay. And a currency converter. I'm actually gonna play and likely activate to try and hit a land for next turn. Parallel lives to double tokens. Okay. So that also applies to the tokens from the Overlord. Alright, I'll keep the Power Stone for sure. Maybe Portable Hole can go. And I found a land, so now I can just play Nahiri, which can also exile the Parallel Lives. I don't mind playing a slightly longer game, because if my opponent makes double the tokens, all of a sudden they'll have this huge mana advantage that can maybe take over. Converter will probably make a 2/2 end of turn, unless we feel the need to cast a board wipe. Yeah, now we can oust. So sure, I'll make a token. So let me plus here. Discarding could be one of the sweepers. First try oust, in case they have a protection spell. That works. And then now Power Stone seems fine. Still don't actually have double red for the Pyromancer. So that might be the next creature to get discarded. Now green sense for 4. Are we getting a Questing Beast, maybe? We're getting an Icestill Explorer with the fetch lanes, fair enough. So we could Day of Judgment to get rid of it. Might be a little drastic. It's not like the Explorer is gonna take out Nahiri, but yeah, if they have something pricey in hands, they are ramping a lot. Let's just make another 2/2. Nahiri keeps plussing. I'll get rid of the Pyromancer. Find a Wandering, that's a good one. So I can go Builder's Talents, Wandering activates. Can even level this up first. Counter on a 2-2. And pass a turn. So we've got our defenses in place. Opponent's gonna build up their mana some more. But yeah, they seem like a pretty dedicated Enchantress deck. So I don't necessarily expect a Crater Hoof out of nowhere. But they could certainly have answers to Nahiri. Mirari's Wake's a fun one too. So what are we doing with all this mana? Tutor for any enchantment. Alright, so they can get an answer for whatever they want. Conquer's Death makes sense. Can also hit the One Ring. Alright, I'll draw on the way out. Converter can make another 2-2. And then Nahiri keeps plussing, even though it could exile Conquers, but I don't think we really care about it. Let go of a land, even though maybe Curse is not useful anymore. At least the second red helps with the Pyromancer. So yeah, don't have much going on. Just looking at what we can get back with a Builder's Talent. Can activate the Converter just to draw and discard as well. Sure. Alright, Fable's not bad. Could play Fable, or I can make a pair of 1/1s. Let's play Fable. Also allows me to attack with a Rogue this turn. Okay. Now, Emrakul's Annihilator is not that effective when they have a million lands in play, but it's still a 15-15 attacking. So we'll see. Can our opponents find an answer? Well, Pit of Offerings, I guess, exiles the Pyromancer here, so I don't get to make any tokens with it. The Boots is gone. They milled a lot of good cards. What do they have in hand? Summon Bahamut. So, goodbye Nahiri. Back to the command zone. And Fable, discard Henge. So now the problem is if I wipe the board, they just get Bahamut back with Conquer's Death next turn. Nahiri could also exile Summon Bahamut, because it is an enchantment. And then Conquer's Death gets back maybe an Elish Norn. Yeah, I guess I don't hate Nahiri, exile Bahamut, and then just put the pedal to the metal. Counter on one of these 2/2s. And then with the treasure I could still sack a token to Fountain Port if I'd like.
My rage cannot be quelled.
Alright, currency converter beatdown. Who would have thought? So this is actually just lethal if they block like this. Still gonna sack the Shaman to draw. Possible they have Swords to Plowshares in hand. Go to damage. So opponent takes 6, falls to 3. And I can make another 2 to end of turn. So I don't hate my spot, but we'll see. Gets back Elishnor as we suspected. Get double the mill from Elishnor now. So I'm also not going to get any more +1 counters going forward. Now enchantment creatures I can still exile with Nahiri, so the Overlord's not actually a good blocker. Chord of Calling for 8. Uh-oh, am I dead? Double trigger a Crater Hoof. Can do some damage. But I am at 31. Alright, get Summon Knights of Round. Makes sense. Well, now Sunfall's looking good. So I guess I'm not going to make a 2-2 end of turn. Although sadly I will lose the Reflection of Kiki-Jiki. But yeah, I don't think we would have been able to get past all these blockers. Elspeth, also an interesting one. But yeah, let's just Sunfall. I don't think there's a point in attacking first. Could sack a token to Fountain Port. That's about to die anyway. Sunfall. Nahiri pluses. I'm gonna stay put. And then end of turn I can make a 2-2, maybe animate the Incubator. Alright, Procession to double the tokens. Into the Overlord, which they tutored for on turn 1, and now they finally cast it. Getting 2 everywhere tokens. Alright, so I guess their opponent did just shuffle away their commander after all. Wasn't paying too much attention. So they were playing on hard mode. Get double the Sapperling tokens. Alright, so definitely gonna make a 2-2. Can surveil end of turn as well. If I don't animate the Incubator yet, I could also maybe use Elspeth. Opponent's at 2. I guess a pair of hasty 1/1s is decent. So sure, we'll animate this. Nahiri exiles the Overlord. Channel Crucible. And that should be more than enough. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Rofellos, and yeah, we've got a nice start. Turn 1, Curse of Silence, name your commander, so we don't have to worry about it for a while. They do have a halfling. But next turn we still shouldn't be seeing Rofellos at least. And I get to play a talent to protect Nahiri in the meantime. Exploration, alright. Play an extra land. Gonna try and wait as long as possible on this Day of Judgment, although now we have Depopulate as well. So Builder's Talent can level up for a counter, or I can Converter and still activate, which is probably better here. So let's do that. And that can get a mountain. Or I could get a Sacred Foundry, we'll see. Opponent's gonna Harrow. Get 2 untapped lanes. And Archer's Charm my Builder's Talent. Fair enough. They were maybe afraid that I was gonna set up some reanimation synergies with the Converter. Which, yeah, if I draw into an expensive Planeswalker, that could have been a play. I think I can afford to get a Sacred Foundry just in case. And then keep the castle. Now Converter can also make a treasure. Although I'm not going to be needing it right away. Nahiri's going to plus, even though we could exile either one of these 2 1-drops.
Boulders will hail from the heavens.
Now I don't have the option to make a 2/2 blocker, which could have been relevant, but seems useful to keep my board wipes. And then even though I could sack the curse, I don't think I will. Just to keep that commander tax high. Converter makes a treasure. Nahiri keeps plussing. I'll keep the basics in case of a Winter Moon. Depopulate, and then I can still play Ajani. Possible they can protect Rofellos, yeah, with the safekeeping. So yeah, now we could be in trouble. Since they'll have access to 1,000,000 mana, so they could cast some huge Eldrazi to take over. If not, I'll be the one doing the Eldraziing. Shared summons. Alright, 5 mana left. Maybe Questing Beast attacks us here. Yeah, I hope they can find something to deal with Nahiri right now. And it doesn't look like it. Vorinclex Reclamation Sage. That's fine. So I don't actually hate using Day of Judgment before getting Emrakul. Just to get rid of their creatures as well. Although now they do have a lot of lands they can sacrifice. Either way, make another treasure. Let's see. I guess I could also helix my cat token. Just so I can transform Ajani. So I don't lose it to my Day of Judgments. Proper sequencing. Now Ajani can make a token while I still control a red permanence. And then I'll ultimate, get Emrakul. And smash. And that'll do it. Awesome. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Kenrith, 5-color good stuff. We just need 2 colors of good stuff. This hand seems fine. Likely gonna see some ramp artifact or enchantment we can rip apart. Although happy enough just curving Transformer into Nahiri. There's a lot of ways you can build a Kenrith deck. But usually it starts with a bit of ramp. So our opponent off to a nice start. So I don't need to prioritize another land with the Surveil. Anger of the Gods likely getting discarded to Nahiri. Do have to watch out for a potentially hasty Kenrith for 6 mana total. So that's where cards like Authority of the Consuls can come in handy, making sure opposing creatures enter tapped and we can immediately exile them with a -2 as well. But ideally we can just +2 Nahiri twice to set up the ultimate. Opponent going for the Modern Age, discarding Jingitaxius. Kenrith can also reanimate creatures, so they do have that reanimation angle built into the deck. Rip Apart on Modern Age doesn't seem all that appealing. And I'm still gonna +2 discard Anger.
My rage cannot be quelled.
Blood Moon could be very effective here, if it's not too late. It would turn all the opponent's lands into mountains, and that's one way to beat the 5-color deck. Discards Nyxbloom Ancient. This is also an enchantment that we could exile with a -2, even if it's not tapped. Another non-basic. And our opponent taps out for Kenrith. Alright, Curse a little late to the party. So we have options. I can just Blood Moon my opponents, and then... what are they gonna do? Not much. Nahiri will take a hit, admittedly, but then next turn I can just take over with my board wipes. I think that's a fine compromise, as opposed to Day of Judgment plus Nahiri next turn Trine Ultimate, which could also work out, to be fair, but this seems more fun. And then just gonna curse name Kenrith for now. Nahiri pluses. Don't think I'll need a Rip Apart. I do actually rely on the Transformer to make double white for Day of Judgment and Sunfall. Could have also considered casting Rip Apart on the enchantment, because now they can still give this haste. And now with the basic planes they can also gain 5. So they can put Nahiri to 1. Alright, opponent's just gonna gain 5, get it out of the way. And both add Nahiri, makes sense.
I'll come for you next.
Alright, Arid Mesa no longer able to get basic planes, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm happy enough casting the Sunfall. Nahiri will plus. Still discarding a land, I think, even though it would set up Ugin next turn. Don't want to get rid of my Day of Judgment just yet. And Quintorius isn't bad either. Opponent just has to pass it back. Nahiri probably gonna wait on Ugin to draw a card. Can get rid of the land now. So yeah, Blood Moon can definitely have its moments. So opponent will need to pay 9 mana total to cast Kenrith through commander attacks and curse. And they probably can't do much else. Nahiri slowly ticking up, and yeah, our opponent has seen enough. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Egrix, mono black. So they'll definitely have answers to Planeswalkers, but I think we still keep here. Got Cold Steel Heart for mana acceleration, and then hopefully curve Nahiri into Elspeth, into Ugin. It's gonna be a lot of stuff for them to deal with, although now Thoughtseize might actually take our Cold Steel Heart and leave us stranded with a bunch of 5 and 6 drops. Still takes Quintorius. That's surprising. This can name white. Opponent with a Wayfarer's Bauble. Yeah, I mean, I'll just play Nahiri. Can ditch a land here.
I herald a torrent of stone.
Opponent does nothing. Well, I'm just gonna keep on plussing. Don't think I need Anger of the Gods.
I have waited too long for justice.
Elspeth makes some tokens. Protecting Nahiri from any hasty creatures, not that mono black is likely to have them.
More
I guess a Rankle comes to mind. That one flies. Just sacking the bauble. Well, I mean, our opponent had turn 1 Thoughtseize, but made a pretty interesting decision. So now they need to deal with 2 Planeswalkers. Alright, 5 mana. Drawbridge to give Egrix haste next turn. Alright, and a Baleful Mastery on Nahiri, so they had the answer. Back to the command zone. So I don't have a way to deal with the drawbridge, since Ugin can't destroy colorless permanents, and Elspeth can't deal with the drawbridge either. So yeah, I think I'm just redeploying Nahiri. This can also only exile tapped artifacts. So they will get an attack in with Egrix. But hopefully it's not going to be too bad. Talisman I can play for free once I deploy Ugin. The Helix doesn't seem amazing, although I can probably ditch a land at this point as well. Chandra would have been an answer to the bridge. I'll just keep everyone back. Getting in for 1 damage doesn't seem worth it. And we can trade for a 4/4. Alright, so if their top decks are kind to them, they might find some answers. And we get to trade. A Wishclaw, alright, so Metalcraft is active, so they can get whatever they want. Although they wouldn't be able to cast those spells from hand for free. But they're still gonna activate for 1 mana. What can they find? Maybe just an answer to Planeswalkers for next turn. And the boots of the top now, since they shuffled. Find Terminus. Alright, and a Shieldred, so they're going off. They haven't found a land yet until now, maybe? Scheming Symmetry, yeah, that one makes a lot of sense to get with Wishclaw. So now they can get whatever card they want and cast it by paying life. So it's likely going to be an answer to my Planeswalkers. I guess I just get a Sweeper here to deal with Shieldred and Drawbridge. Anything make more sense? I could go for maybe Urza Assembles. Yeah, Urza Assembles seems pretty decent here, actually. So they must have another removal spell now, I think. Beseech. For a 1 ring. Alright, that's pretty strong alongside Shieldred. Play Guardian Idol. So our opponent has had an amazing turn here with Egrix. Not seeing a lot of lands. Inquisition now takes probably a Helix. Alright, they're finally done. Took a while. They cast 6 or 7 spells for free that turn. But we still have a Nahiri. They didn't necessarily tutor up an answer. And now our opponent concedes anyway. Well, that's pretty funny. So what was my turn gonna look like? So we definitely need to deal with Shieldred. Can use either Ugin or Elspeth. Probably gonna just start with Urza Assembles on chapter 2. So I can... Well, actually, what I could do is Urza Assemble start from chapter 3. If I want to +2 Nahiri and immediately -8. Which could be reasonable, although Annihilator 6 still leaves them with a lot of powerful permanents. So then I don't think we go for Nahiri Ultimate right now. And instead, Urza Assemble start from chapter 2. Can't quite play Chandra and Urza Assembles, but we can assemble Ugin. Ugin probably just destroys Shieldred. Elspeth makes some tokens, Nahiri discards Talisman, and then next turn I get at least 3, maybe even 4 Planeswalkers that I get to activate twice, which is hopefully enough to take over. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing a green landfall deck with Bristly Bile. Our hand is not perfect, would really like a board wipe. We do, however, have Signet, Birth makes a blocker, and then Aura Sight can maybe reset some +1 counters. So it's not the worst. Get to Surveil to maybe find a sweeper. Mountain. Yeah, I don't think I need to keep it when Birth can get a Plains. And Caryatid. Alright, so we've got plenty of ramp. Still not going for Bill. It's gonna be a Birds. And a Garruk's Uprising. Now Urza Assembles is looking good too, with Chandra in hand. These are not elementals. So I guess we just try and set that up for next turn. And I guess by playing the Aura Sight, I'll have enough mana for Urza Assembles next turn. And I get to deal with Uprising, so they maybe don't get to draw cards. That's reasonable. Or I can still go for Birth just to get additional blockers to protect my Planeswalkers. And ensure a line drop for next turn. But yeah, if they play something big, I may not be able to answer it with 3 damage. Alright, it's gonna be Fight Rigging. Do they have a land to go with it? Because if Bill remains a 3-3, Chandra looks great. But looks like they might be able to make it a 4-4. No, opponent puts counter on Caryatid. Now counter on Bill. Well, this is the perfect setup for Chandra. Let's see, can I Urza Assembles alongside, play Aura Sight? Would be 1 short. Yeah, still gonna start here from chapter 2, put in Chandra. And hope this works. Alright, that was brutal. Sweep up all their creatures. Still have a wall to protect my Planeswalker. Next turn I get to play Nahiri, activate both Planeswalkers twice. And then we still have an Aura Sight for maybe one of the enchantments. Nahiri could also deal with the enchantments, to be fair. Alright, so options aplenty. And yeah, opponent has seen enough. What's the ideal sequencing? I mean, honestly, just going Nahiri, deal with both enchantments could be reasonable. And then it's going to take me a while to get Emrakul, or we can just play Nahiri, plus discarding the lands, maybe finding something else. Chandra can +2 and deal with an Ontuko. And then I can still deploy an Aura Sight here to maybe deal with... Probably the Fight Rigging is scarier than the Uprising at this point. So yeah, we were definitely in control. Okay, we're on the play, facing Old Stickfingers, Reanimator. Alright, so just need 1 more land. I've got Solitude to answer any creature they reanimate, like Arden, if they're going for the Arden-Ulamog combo. And then hopefully Nahiri can take over. Found a land number 3, mana source number 4. And a Grave Expectations, that's fine. Now, depending on their build, they could have some Planeswalker removal. But most of these Stickfinger decks I've seen are pretty all-in on the reanimation angle. So Lightning Helix, probably our weakest card. Ooh, opponent found a Fateful Absence with the Grave Expectations. Yeah, that's, I guess, one of the advantages of heisting. So back to the command zone. Still gonna discard Helix since we need more lands now. Alright, so they found an answer in our deck. Now they're gonna tutor for a reanimation spell, presumably. But I can afford to tap out for Quintorius, thanks to Solitude still giving us instant speed removal. And I'll just make a token Discovering, somewhat likely to hit a sweeper as well. So they can Stickfingers for 2. Opponent found a Bitter Triumph discarding Arden. Alright, so they had it in hand already. Possible they tutored for more Planeswalker removal. Alright, so I don't have a land 5 to cast Nahiri again. I can sack my Clue. Can also sack my token to Fountain Port to draw. Found a land. So now I get to attack and then just pass, I think. Stickfingers for 1, so that's probably just milling Ulamog. Alright, let's see what happens. No reanimating so far. End of turn, I'll make a fish. And drew Emrakul, so we'll have to discard that to Nahiri. Now the question is, do I tap out for Nahiri? Or do I try and keep up both Swords and Solitude? Which could be safer. I think I still go for Nahiri. Discard Emrakul. Opponent knows what's incoming. And now I still get to keep up Swords alongside Solitude. So that's a little bit safer. Alright, Dark Rituals, opponent's going big. It doesn't add up, returning a creature, that's fine. So they still have 2 mana up, maybe for a protection spell, who knows. Yeah, I mean, I could let Ulamog enter and then pay the ward, but then if they protect Ulamog, I'll have to pay the ward again. So let's just avoid that mess. Arden's exiled. And our opponent scoops it up, so yeah, it doesn't take much to beat these old Stickfinger decks. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Ajani, one of the highest win rate Brawl commanders out there, so a very scary deck. We do have a Depopulate and a Chrome Mox, so I'm down. Turn 1 Officer. So still not in a hurry to play the Chrome Mox. Probably have to depopulate before I can play Nahiri. Alright, one's got a Signet instead of Ajani. So, yeah, this is interesting. Could also play Birth. Although then the wall is probably going to get blown up. Or we can go for Chandra. Take out the Officer. Yeah, that seems better. And then I kind of like just keeping the Planeswalkers and the Sweeper. Because then next turn I could maybe ramp out Elspeth. Now Red-White is going to have some burn spells and haste creatures as well that we have to worry about. But I guess I would rather have dealt with Officer. Lootmonger is acceptable. Although we do have answers to Planeswalkers in our own deck as well. So if they play Ajani, I probably should depopulate, even though I could play Elspeth. Alright, never mind, they had Cathartic Pyre. So that deals with Chandra. Can still play Nahiri, although it is gonna be taking at least 2 damage. Could also activate Castle, that seems kinda weak. Let's go for Nahiri, and then I don't think I necessarily discard anything. Nahiri could also exile the Signet, but then we're losing her to a Lootmonger attack. So yeah, it's not ideal. Maybe I should discard land, hope to draw a 1-mana removal spell,
Molten from the core of my
since I'm
soul.
most likely gonna depopulate before I Elspeth.
Be tempered.
There's Ajani. Hopefully they can transform it right away. Tithe Taker will leave behind a 1/1. So this isn't too bad.
This is an
And get to wipe the board. May as well depopulate so they don't get to draw right now. And then what to do with Nahiri. Plus discarding maybe a Fateful Absence. Although it could be nice to have some instant speed removal. Although getting the mana for Elspeth next turn is probably better.
too long for justice.
Still don't know what they got with Heist. Could be some expensive Planeswalker. And Ajani's back, so now Wrath of God looks good again.
May our axes strike as one.
I mean, if I'm afraid of a expensive Planeswalker, I could deal with a Signet. But let's just work towards an ultimate here. And now Sunfall's even better. So we have something to pressure a Planeswalker with, and our opponent scoops it up. Do I get to find out what they exiled here? Let's see. Nope, it remains face down, that's unfortunate. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Ashaya, so mono green Linefall, and our hand's fine. Turn on Portable Hole, turn 2 Signet, hopefully turn 3 Nahiri. Finding a sweeper along the way could also come in handy. And a Lotus Cobra, that one's pretty scary. Still gonna play the Signet over Talent. But I may not be able to play Nahiri if they already ramp out on Ashaya here. So then top decking one of our 4-mana rats would be ideal. Just a tap to Vendo. And a Provisioner, also quite strong. Cobra attacks. Does mean I would be able to exile it with Nahiri's minus. So that's maybe giving them pause. Opponent's gonna station instead. And we drew the Day of Judgment, so I could just cast it now, which would be totally fine. Or I can go for a slightly riskier play of playing Nahiri. They only get to attack Nahiri for 5. They might overextend into the Day of Judgment, and then I can wipe their board.
I will have revenge for Zendikar. Boulders will hail from the heavens.
They do get a lot of Linefall triggers here, so that's the danger. And a Great Henge, alright. Anything else? Station a Vendo all the way. And attack Nahiri. So then I wouldn't be able to exile the Great Henge anymore.
He'll be sorry.
I guess the Henge would need to be tapped for Nahiri to exile that one. Beanstalk Giant for more ramp. So Day of Judgment will be effective, but they will have the mana to redeploy Ashaya before too long. Alright, land is always welcome, so let's wipe the board. And then definitely going to keep Urza Assembles. Can put in my 6-mana Chandra, so Quintorius is probably the weakest link. I don't have to discard anything, to be honest. I probably keep my hand as is. End of turn Surveil. Ooh, summon Bahamut, that's rough. That can deal with Nahiri. So now I just want extra lanes.
I have failed.
So now I'm looking to put an Elspeth to destroy Bahamut. And I found a lane, so next turn I can replay Nahiri activate twice. So we're skipping straight to chapter 2. Ashaya is back. And Gwenna. Alright, so no tramply creatures, so we can just make a bunch of tokens with Elspeth to protect Nahiri. And speaking of Elspeth, power 4 or greater, so would not deal with Gwenna. Yeah, I think it's still Nahiri, and then just make a bunch of soldiers. And hope I don't get crater hoofed. At this point, Quintorius can probably go. And do I need the lands? Not really. Alright. Well, let's see what happens. They have a lot of mana. Great Henge can draw a lot of cards. Cultivate's fine. So at the very least they can still cast the Beanstalk Giant. That's acceptable. So now Elspeth -3 looks great too. Opponent goes after Nahiri. So let's Elspeth minus ultimate Nahiri.
I will defend my own honor.
Get Emrakul. Also debatable that I could just exile the Great Henge here, but I kind of like going for Emrakul. This can make more tokens for now. Annihilator 6. And then we still have more Planeswalkers to get the job done. Alright, so the initial play of playing Nahiri over Wrath maybe didn't quite work out, but I'm still happy with how the game went overall. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Breya, 4-color artifacts. Blood Moon could do a number on them if they have a lot of non-basics. The rest of my hand is not ideal, so I'm mostly counting on Blood Moon. I'll try it. They could also have a bunch of ramp artifacts, in which case Blood Moon will lose effectiveness. So, don't expect them to fetch a basic, but you never know. I guess in this case it would be basic mountain, so that's fine. Get Sacred Foundry, and we drew Cold Steel Heart, so that's good. Given the Blood Moon, I should probably name white. So they kept up maybe Swords to Plowshares, who knows. For now, Oswald. Alright, I don't mind Blood Moon plus Chain to the Rocks. So this is white. Now if they have any fetch lands in hand, they won't be able to sacrifice them. And then Nahiri can try and take over. Alright, Mox Opal with 2 artifacts, so almost online. I'll just go for Nahiri. Plus, and Elspeth could be ambitious. Let's just focus on ultimating. This enters untapped because of Blood Moon, same with the bridge last turn. So there are some very interesting rules interactions when it comes to Blood Moon. But yeah, opponent stuck. Discard Fabled Passage. And I get to pass with Solitude and Fateful Absence available. So unless they have something to target Nahiri, we'll be able to get Emrakul next turn. Alright, we'll just take our turn. -8. And blow up some mountains.
Cannot be quelled.
And our opponent scoops it up. Beautiful. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Thrun, Breaker of Silence. Has a bit of built-in protection, cannot be countered, can be the target of non-green spells, but we can still sweep it up with our board wipes in our own turn. So this hand with a bunch of spot removal is not exactly what we want, even though we did have 2 mana and a ramp card. This one also not ideal since it doesn't answer Thrun, but I think I'll still keep it. Can maybe answer Mana Elf early. And I do have the Curve of Mindstone into Nahiri. And then hopefully we'll draw into a actual sweeper at some point. Say no to the mountain. Into the north. So yeah, I'm free to play Nahiri and hope they don't have a questing beast. That's the type of card that could be pretty effective. Still gonna discard a mountain. Maybe next turn I'll discard Seamerip if they don't present any targets for it.
I herald a torrent of stone.
Cultivate is fine. So yeah, I get to go up to 8. They maybe cast Thrun. I get to ultimate, so that lines up fine by me. First I will plus. Don't think I need Guardian Idol, or maybe Seamerip can go now. Alright, Wandering Emperor is nice to keep up. So I'll just pass here. Six mana for Primeval Titan. Okay, not a bad card. Will mean they have more than 6 permanents they can sacrifice to Emrakul's Annihilator, but it'll still set them back quite a bit. And our opponent's gonna station Evendo, which actually means I can now exile Primeval Titan with Wandering Emperor. Could have also made a token and then minused in my own turn, to be fair, but I also don't want to lose the Emperor if I don't have to. So I'm not going to waste any more time, just Ultimate Nahiri, get Emrakul, attack.
Forged from stone.
And our opponent's gonna scoop it up, having to sacrifice 6 lanes, understandably. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing the First Sliver. Could be 5-color good stuff, could be an actual Sliver deck. Either way, I like this hand. With turn 1, Borrow Signet of Chromox, turn 2, Nahiri. I'm not sure yet if I'm keeping Bolt or Wrath. Probably keep the Wrath. And then Portable Hole could also maybe get rid of some random artifacts. So turn 2 Nahiri coming up. I'll ditch the Portable Hole now. Ancient Tomb can cast Ugin next turn, or replay Nahiri if it gets removed. And there's another Ugin. So turn 3 Ugin, turn 4 Ugin, get Emrakul. We might be living the dream. Opponent hasn't done anything but play tapped Triomes. Alright, and our opponent's going to ramp some more, putting 2 more lands in play, which conveniently all get swept up by Emrakul. Alright, I gotta play Ugin first just to show it. And then we'll ultimate.
I see no threat that I cannot manage.
Get Emrakul.
Rule is stone and
Attack.
steel.
And that'll do it. Sweet. Alright, so we got to see this red-white Nahiri control deck in action. And yeah, we got to tutor up Emrakul very consistently, so I'm very happy with how the deck performed. Now, that doesn't mean that this deck doesn't have any weaknesses, especially blue control decks with lots of counters or answers to planeswalkers can make it difficult for us. And then the occasional land destruction deck that can consistently activate Strip Mine can also make it impossible for us to cast our more expensive spells in the first place. So those are the types of matchups you typically want to avoid, but against most of the creature decks out there, you should have a good time. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.